welcome to the Tom Baker Show. It is great to be back with you again, wherever you are tuning us in from. We are happy to have you. And my co-host with me once again from Steering Wheel Nation, our editor, Jacob Seelman. And Jacob, we have got all kinds of conversation to have on this show about the racing we've been seeing in Florida during Speed Week so far, and some stuff coming up as well, and a little bit of news mixed in. But we're going to jump first to the starting line.
That we are, which would seem to be an apropos place to begin, if
Usually.
you will. And I'm going to start with the obvious. You mentioned Dirt Car Nationals. I'm going to take it one step further. Dear Volusia Speedway Park, take a bow, friends, because...
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. What we've seen so far during the last 2 weeks of the Federated Auto Parts Dirt Car Nationals at that half-mile dirt oval has been absolutely unbelievable. If you don't think that I'm being serious, go back and watch any of the highlights. You will not be disappointed. That's all I can really say without devolving into 18 million superlatives that I'm sure I'll use at least a few of on this show. But my goodness, Tom, the resurfacing that World Racing Group, which owns and operates Volusia, of course, the ownership body of the World of Outlaws, among multiple other dirt tours as well, they took to task over the winter resurfacing that racetrack with some of the original dirt, which was still on the property, to try and spice things up again, juice it up, if you will, as they say in the dirt world. And it has absolutely delivered again and again and again and again over the course of the Dirt Car Nationals, not just across all the sprint car and open wheel racing that we've seen, but across every division. When you think about what we've seen with the Dirt Car UMP Modifieds, if you take it back a little further to the Sunshine Nationals in January, the late models, when they were down there, were amazing as well. To use the old Sparta gif that has taken over social media at various times, Tom, have you not been entertained, or are you not entertained?
Well, I have been entertained, and I am entertained. Yeah, this was really, so far the racing at Volusia has been incredible. And, you know, it's interesting because this is the first time, and I'm sort of ashamed to say this, but yet I'm not, because I want people to understand my perspective on this. This is the first year that I have really been in a position to stop and sit and watch all of this Volusia coverage from the Dirt Car Nationals. And I have to tell you, it is riveting from night to night. As you say, whether it's been the ASCS sprints, whether it's been the UMP mods, whether it's been the World of Outlaws sprint cars, whatever it's been, okay, every division has put on great racing, and there's been multiple grooves. We've seen a lot of drivers go from back to front, so the passing is absolutely not a problem on this track, whatever Volusia did. And someone told me about an hour ago that, because we were talking about this, and someone told me that they heard a rumor that maybe that same type of dirt is coming to Charlotte Motor Speedway. Now, I don't want to start a rumor, but I'm just telling you what I heard. And my response was, yes, please. Tomorrow is about the right time for that to happen. And while you're at it, dump about a 6 miles coverage worth of it on Millbridge Speedway too, so we can get rid of the dust there and have that same kind of racing. It's really been, it's been incredible to watch, because the track seems to have held up. It's so good from beginning to end. I can't believe it.
Yeah, no, it really, really, really has been. And when you talk about the fact great racing and passing has not been at a premium, it's been every chance that you can possibly get. I mean, that's testament to the fact that we have seen two workable grooves basically every night, if not three workable grooves most nights, and drivers who are unafraid being able to go all the way right to the tippy top on the edge of that cushion to try and make things happen. Actually, when I say that, my brain goes back to the ASCS portion, the middle night of that three-race stand where Tyler Courtney went right to the tippy top and just scooted his way around Cole Macedo at the end of that second ASCS feature. Was the first time I was like, oh, this is for real. And it for sure has stayed that way. If anything, I know people will say, well, the last night was a little bit of a caution fest between both the UMP mods and the World of Outlaws. Okay, the Outlaws had 4 cautions, whatever. Sometimes you'll get that, but I would argue that the track that we had for the, if I think back to the last World of Outlaws night, the track that we had at the end of the B-main for the sprint cars was not what I really hoped it would be, and the longer modified race with the extra caution laps, etc., to kind of pack it down and bring it in, so to speak, actually made, and High Limit race director, former World of Outlaws race director Mike Hess pointed this out on social media afterwards, that probably made the track better for that World of Outlaws feature, which we'll talk more about in the final point of our starting line. But before we do that, Tom, you mentioned passing being plentiful. No one proved that more than the driver in the second bullet of our 3-pack here. Okay, have we seen enough between you and I and the rest of the free world? Have we seen enough to look at each other and officially say, hello, Donnie Schatz is back yet? I mean, look at this. 3 World of Outlaws features at Dirt Car Nationals. He goes 21st to 5th on the first night, 21st to 6th on the second night. By the way, he won the Last Chance Showdown in both of those after having mechanical woes in his heat races the first 2 nights. And then he qualifies for the main event on the third night through his heat race, but still starts pretty buried, has to come from 19th, and still gets a top 10 finish out of the deal. Passed more sprint cars in 3 features, 40 positions gained in total, than any other sprint car driver that competed during 410 week at the Dirt Car Nationals. Are you a believer yet?
Well, if you'll recall, when we talked about this before, I was the one saying that I don't think that there is any way that Volusia could hurt Donnie Schatz's overall chances for a championship. I said it could only help. If he did not start off well with the new team, then he has, about 80 or 85 more races to figure it out. If he did start off well, woe to the competition. So, having noted that he's passed over 40 cars so far in feature competition, I ask 2 things.
Okay.
One, how big do you believe the gap between himself and the second place finisher in the championship standings could be? But then the second question is, okay, yes, he went from 21st to 5th. He went from 21st to 6th. He went from 19th to 10th. Why in the world can't he start in the top 10 and go lap half the field?
I'll answer your last question first. He just needs to qualify better.
Exactly.
We've proven he can be great over 25 or 30 laps.
Yeah.
He just needs to get the 1 lap speed better, because if he starts qualifying better and starts on the front row of a heat race to where he can start making dashes and qualify in the top 8 in the top 8 every night, like you say, Donnie Schatz is going to be dangerous when we get down this road a little further. I will add to that, by the way, that when he went to CJB Motorsports and that deal was announced here before the start of the season, that a lot of people asked right away, will they have the speed that Donnie needs? My answer to that is simple. Volusia Speedway Park is the fastest track in terms of sheer speed on the entire World of Outlaws schedule. You just aren't as hard on motors the way that because of how sweeping the corners are at a Knoxville or an Eldora, like you are at Volusia, or maybe the only other track that I could say is maybe close to that in terms of being hard on the engines at the end of straightaways is Williams Grove, just because it is very long straightaways and kind of tighter corners, but you use more brake there going into turn one at Williams Grove than you do at some of these other third mile to half mile racetracks. So a lot of drivers will tell you that Volusia Speedway Park is where you need the most sheer speed of any racetrack on a national touring sprint car calendar. That way I can encompass both Outlaws and High Limit in that discussion. And make no mistake, CJB Motorsports and the 15 car had speed. You don't not have speed and be able to go 21st to 5th, 21st to 6th, 19th to 10th. Because, Tom, you and I watched all of this, and there was not, until we got to the very final feature, there was not a lot of attrition in really across the entire Outlaws portion of Dirt Car Nationals. Donnie Schatz did the vast majority, save for a couple of positions, of that passing on pure merit. That takes speed. That takes a good driver. I saw both, and like you said, boy, if he starts qualifying better, starting higher up in features and keeps doing this, Donnie running away by a straightaway or a half lap at some of the places where he is the best. Hello, Williams Grove. Hello, Knoxville. Hello, Volusia when we go back in March. I mean, whew. Yeah, you're right. This could get scary.
Well, and obviously I was being somewhat funny, but I was trying to make the point that, because obviously as you get closer to the front, it gets harder to pass because the cars are all as fast as you.
Yeah,
but my point is what in the world has happened to him in qualifying for these few shows here that he puts himself in such a big hole, and if he can avoid that.
Yeah.
Good Lord. I mean, he's going to be in contention to win every single race.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, at least one of those nights, I'd have to go back and check my notes, which I will do during our first commercial break. I'll go back and check this, but I know at least one of the 3 nights Donnie was disadvantaged by having to go out really early in his qualifying flight, and many of these top drivers will tell you, going out early versus going out to the mid or maybe the second third of qualifying when the track is at its best is really the key. So if you have to go out early and it's not quite run in the way you want it to be, you're going to be missing some pure lap time based on the guys that go out a little later. I know that was at least one of the 3 nights that Donnie just had a bad pill draw pre-qualifying, but you're right. Soon as that gets knocked out of the way, whew, he is going to be so much fun to watch.
Yep, 100%. Amazing. Just an amazing performance out of the box by Schatzy, and can't wait to see what he does the rest of the year.
Absolutely. With that, I will also pull out of my pocket my first Sealman stat of the week. Note I said first. We'll revisit that category a little later in this program. But on the sprint car set, the driver that we're going to talk about as the final major talking point in our starting line is Mr. Anthony Macri, the concrete king, who takes a gator, actually 2 gators, home from Volusia to Pennsylvania for the posse. Macri won both the finale feature for the World of Outlaws, and in doing so collected the Big Gator Points Championship for 410 sprint cars, becoming the 9th Big Gator champion since its inception in 2012. That would be notable by itself. Yes, well, we'll add to that Anthony is the second non-Outlaws regular in a row to win the Big Gator after Kyle Larson did it in 2025. Macri, of course, repping for the PA Posse. Why is that important? Because if you're Anthony Macri, you've just beaten David Gravel at his best. You've pocketed $20,000. And, oh, by the way, you're tied now for the overall World of Outlaws point lead with Buddy Kofoid and David Gravel. We have a 3-way tie leaving Dirt Car Nationals for the World of Outlaws overall championship lead. I ask the following. Why in the wide world of sprint car racing is Anthony Macri not departing the PA Posse after dominating them all this time as well, by the way, and going full-time racing with one of the national tours? It blows my mind, Tom, enough to the point that the World of Outlaws actually nudged him on social media after the Saturday night feature and said, so, when should we send over the contract, Anthony? Referring to, of course, the Platinum contract for full-time World of Outlaws drivers to sign. My mind is blown. If I'm looking at Anthony Macri, I'm going, dude, you've beaten these guys at the King's Royal. You've now beaten these guys at the Dirt Car Nationals, 2 of the highest and deepest fields in sprint car racing all season long. Why is this so difficult? Why are we not looking at you going, okay, Anthony Macri's the point leader and we're going to get to see this for 85 nights this year?
That's a good question. I mean, obviously, you and I aren't aware of all of the particulars involved in that situation, and
that's true.
You know, we don't really know what. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that decision. First of all, you know, can our crew travel full time? You know, how many of these people have full-time jobs, have, you know, obligations, families? There's a big difference between running locally for 50 races where you're traveling an hour, 2 hours, maybe 3, and going cross-country for 3/4 of the year. And so it is hard for a family team oftentimes to make that commitment for multiple reasons. But I think if the question that you're asking is, do I think that it's time that somebody give Anthony that opportunity if that's what he wants? Yeah. Well, 100%. I mean, you know, he's certainly good enough to run nationally and contend, but man, that is a large-scale commitment. Races run within 2 hours of your house is way different than 20 hours from your house.
That's true.
Being gone for weeks at a time. So, but I think it's a great question. I think it speaks to the respect that everybody has grown to have for Macri, and he did an amazing job. He's doing an outstanding job.
He is. And by the way, for context here, at least in terms of the team, I want to be very clear and point one piece of this out. Anthony Macri's current crew chief on the 39M is Joe Mooney, who started in Pennsylvania, went to North Carolina, came back to Pennsylvania, and in the in-between time in North Carolina, just, you know, worked on the 49 car while Brad Sweet was on it and won multiple World of Outlaws championships with Brad Sweet and the Casey Kane Racing 49 bunch. So this is not somebody who is a stranger to what it takes to go out on a national tour and do this at the level that the World of Outlaws do it. Joe Mooney has done it. Now, you bring up a good point. You know, is the reason that Joe came back to Pennsylvania because he no longer wanted to do that for 85 to 90 nights a year? That's something that only Joe Mooney can answer, and maybe in the coming weeks we can endeavor to get an answer from either Macri or Joe Mooney. I will make it no secret that I am endeavoring to find some of those answers, and we will look to bring them to you either on this program or on steeringwheelnation.com and the Inside Groove Pit Pass. Shameless plug there, but I will say this, that if Anthony Macri wanted to take the step, and if the means for the crew are there to do it with him, there is no shortage of resources. The family concrete business, the sponsorship there, I mean, the resources are there for Anthony to do pretty much whatever he wants, Tom, honestly. And I'll add to this, he ran close to a third of the Outlaws schedule last year. He ran a third of the High Limit schedule last year. Now, granted, a few of those races were, of course, in his home state of Pennsylvania when the Outlaws or High Limit came to town, but a lot of the races that he was with on the national tours, he did actually travel to last year, including the Kings Royal, which he won, the Knoxville Nationals, which he performed well in. I mean, there's a lot of things to this that would work in his favor. I feel like at this point it's just a matter of, do they choose to do it?
Yeah, I mean, again, there's just so many moving parts in making the decision to travel across the country for just weeks on end, and for most of the year, really. It's a big commitment. So we'll see if at some point Macri decides to do that with a family team, or maybe somebody gives him an opportunity. But he certainly got off to a nice start here, and the World of Outlaws season got off to a great start.
It did.
At Volusia. Action continues there, obviously, and it's going to be fun to see how everything turns out. We're going to step aside for a moment. When we come back, we're going to switch gears and talk some other stuff as the Tom Baker Show continues.
Attention track and series owners, elevate your fan experience with the TrackTune app. TrackTune works with your PA system. Fans and teams at the track can hear the announcers through their phones, ensuring everyone hears race calls, sponsor plugs, and more during race nights. It's simple to set up, affordable, and free for fans to download and enjoy. Visit tracktune.live for all the details and join tracks nationwide on the app today.
For race fans across the United States, GetInTheStands.com is the place to find racetracks where you live and where you're traveling. Just go to GetInTheStands.com and enter your location. You'll see the tracks within 100 miles of that point, either as a list or on a map. GetInTheStands.com is 100% free to use and mobile friendly. So whether you're on a computer, a tablet, or on your phone, there's no need to download an app. To find racetracks across the United States, open your web browser and head to GetInTheStands.com. GetInTheStands.com, your racetrack directory.
Welcome back to the show, and it is time to, for the first time ever, I think, on this show, have a second Seelman stat of the week. So, Jacob Seelman, what in the world have you got for us now?
Well, my calculators and my notebooks were having so much fun that one just wasn't enough for this show. And for this one, we shift over to the NASCAR set, where we find a young man out of Berlin, Connecticut by the name of Ryan Preece, who many people are very familiar with, came up out of the Asphalt Tour type modifieds, who recently became the third and only the third driver in the history of what is now known as the Cookout Clash. Originally was the Busch Clash, but the annual preseason exhibition race to win the Clash before winning a points-paying Cup Series race. And he's in pretty darn good company in that category. I said Ryan Preece was the third. The first two, NASCAR Hall of Famer Jeff Gordon and some guy named Denny Hamlin, who owns a pretty famous race team and has about 60 NASCAR Cup Series wins. So if you're Ryan Preece and you want to use that as potential precedent, Tom, I would say there's the potential there for this to springboard to a very, very long and successful Cup Series career for him. The Clash being his first win in Cup-level equipment. Okay, so what does this mean, do you think, for Ryan Preece going forward?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure it means a lot, to be honest with you. I mean, the win certainly meant a lot to him, and I think he looked at it like, it doesn't matter if the win counts or is not a points race. I just won my first Cup race, which, fair enough. He did a great job to win it under extremely challenging conditions, to say the least. And so I guess the question becomes, does this give him a confidence boost going forward? And I think the answer to that is sure, absolutely. Not that I believe he needed one. I think that Ryan Preece at several points last season was the best of the RFK cars. And I think he is the one, if I had to choose one of them that's going to contend for a title, I think Ryan Preece is that driver, and I feel like he's ready this year to come into his own in the Cup Series with that team. They put good resources and good people around him, and I think Brad Keselowski sees him as part of the long-term future of that organization. So I think the win for Ryan was significant in the confidence category, maybe, but of course, when Daytona and Atlanta start your season, if you
that's true.
If you start Daytona or Atlanta, you have a chance to win. So, by the time our next show airs, Ryan Preece just might have won another one.
Well, and I'll add to that, by the way, you mentioned 2 of the 3 drafting tracks on the schedule, the third of which, Talladega Superspeedway, he nearly won, came across the line in second. Of course, there was a post-race technical snafu that threw that second place across the line out for Preece last year, but he has become, and I think part of that is having somebody like Brad Keselowski as a teammate and a car owner, he has become quickly one of the really strong, I would say, super speedway drafting racers in the sport. So you're absolutely right. By the time we next meet on the air for one of these shows, Ryan Preece, this may be an irrelevant conversation because Ryan Preece may have a points win by this point.
And when I think when you just look at who's everybody looks at the usual contenders, right? You look at the Hendrick cars, you look at the Gibbs cars, you look at, and of course you segregate in that list too. A couple things we got to remember going into this NASCAR season: we're not win or in, and we're not one and done. This is now a 36 race chase format where you still have to be in the top 16 at the end of the first 26, but then you have 10 races to win the championship. And I believe this format favors heavily a driver like Ryan Preece, who's good on almost any type of a racing surface in terms of short track, speedway, super speedway. Not necessarily saying he's, top 5 on a road course, but, I think he's good everywhere else. And I think he's kind of out to prove something this year. And, if he can get off to a good start in the first few races and just, maintain pace, I think Ryan has got an excellent chance to make the chase. And if he makes the chase, we've taken the road course out of the chase. So Ryan Preece now, I think his chances to win go up.
That's fair. By the way, can I just interject for a second here before we go to our next regularly scheduled thought? I don't get to do this enough on this show anymore. Breaking news.
Uh-oh, breaking news. I love when we can break news on this show.
I do too. Kyle Busch and Spire Motorsports are back playing ball together again.
Oh boy, kissed and made up.
Well, I don't know that they were ever arguing. I think it's just we hadn't heard that it was for sure a thing in 2026 until now. And NASCAR amended what for so long was the Kyle Busch rule in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series and what's now the NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. Well, they went up on the number of races a Cup driver can drop down and run in 2026. So, unsurprisingly, we're going to see Kyle Busch in more truck races in 2026. 8 of them, to be exact, starting at Atlanta, or I guess now Echo Park Speedway. It'll always be Atlanta to me. Sorry, Marcus. Sorry to your sponsor deal, but
Exactly.
I'm too set in my ways to change now. And I think the most interesting part about this, though, is that HendrickCars.com is going to be the primary sponsor for most of those 8 races. If you remember, Kyle Busch started way back in what was then the NASCAR Busch Series, driving for Hendrick Motorsports, and later moved to the Cup Series for the first couple years of his career in the 5-car for Hendrick Motorsports. So after all this time, Rick Hendrick and Kyle Busch come back together again, and if there's anything that I take away from this news, that's kind of cool, honestly.
So is the truck going to be number 5 then? I mean, are we?
No, it's going to be number 7 because that's what Spire
Yeah.
Motorsports is. But
Well,
still,
I thought Kyle had already. I thought it had been announced he was running for Nice Motorsports in a bunch of races, but apparently,
Nope.
either I
Nope.
misunderstood, and that was rumor rather than fact.
it was
or,
rumor rather than fact.
Okay,
Yes.
so Kyle Inspire 8 races this year in the trucks, and this is interesting to me because obviously it's gotten harder for Kyle to win in the truck series since
It has.
we got away from the specialized motors. So we know where Kyle's biggest advantage was when he had his team, but I know he still loves running truck races and he wants to keep doing it long enough to
Yep.
get Brexton in there. So we, much like, the groundhog sees a shadow and it's 6 more weeks of winter. I think we got
Yeah.
five or 6 more years of Kyle and trucks in order for
something like
Brex to
that.
get there.
Something like that. I wanted to throw that in there because I thought it's very relevant. I mean, the
Yeah.
fact that Kyle is not only coming back but increasing that workload a little bit is maybe the opposite of what I thought we might see this year. So Kyle in 8 total races: Atlanta, Bristol, Texas, Dover, Charlotte during Memorial Day weekend, Nashville, North Wilkesboro in July, which Kyle circled as one he really wants to win, and Richmond in August, the final race. I believe that's the final race that any Cup drivers are eligible to run before the Truck Series gets into their portion of the chase. A couple more things in this segment that I want to touch on. Justin Bonsignor won the NASCAR Modified Tour opener at New Smyrna. He had won during the World Series of Asphalt before in a modified. This, though, his first NASCAR Tour win at Smyrna. I'll just go right to the top of the pile. Is Justin Bonsignor the title favorite again to try and go out and get a 5th Series title?
Well, sure. I mean, why wouldn't he be?
Because Austin Beers beat him for it last year.
Well, look, you didn't say I guess you didn't clarify, is he the lone favorite or the biggest favorite, but I still think as long as Justin is competitive like he is, I think it's hard to imagine that he's not going to be in the championship hunt. Now, Austin Beers had a great season, and also I thought did a really nice job on the Colleague show, by the way, the race for the seat.
He did.
I thought he
was
showed
impressed.
himself well there. Austin is a driver who's young and up and coming, and I think he'll be in contention as well. But yeah, if I'm betting, I'm going to bet on Justin Bonsignor, even though I think there's really about 4 or 5 guys that could win the championship in that series. It's just he's the one always ends up being the most consistent.
That's
from year to
fair,
year.
and I thought that Beers beating him last year was really a big deal in the grand scope of things, and I think the fact that we're focusing the Modified Tour more on the New England and Northeast regions again is a big deal. We get Smyrna, you get Martinsville, and then you go back up to New England for the balance of the year, and that's something the Tour has not had on the schedule the last couple years that I think is a big deal. Hello, Jacob. All right, real quickly, your thoughts on a couple multi-generational names in the modifieds in Luke Baldwin and Mike Christopher Jr., who was also in the Calling race for the Seat Show, by the way, really starting to become more mainstay names in the modified tour, where their family names, of course, Luke with his grandfather Tiger Tom and Tommy Jr., and then Mike, of course, with his Uncle Ted and his father Mike. Those family names are famous on the tour. Your thoughts on both of the young guys starting to make their names?
Well, real quickly, I mean, both of them are first-class young men to begin with. Okay, just outstanding young men. They are both outstanding young racers, too. Now, Luke's going to run some truck races. He has already, and is going to this year as well. But, yeah, they're both champions. They're both future champions. Both of those families are legacy families, as you pointed out. And I think both of them are out for great seasons, and I hope somebody picks up on Mike Christopher and gets him into the truck series here soon as well.
Yes.
With that, we're going to take a break. When we come back, it's time for our last lap and some rapid fire Indy cars in D.C. Are you kidding? More on that
For race fans
after
across
this.
the United States, GetInTheStands.com is the place to find racetracks where you live and where you're traveling. Just go to GetInTheStands.com and enter your location. You'll see the tracks within 100 miles of that point, either as a list or on a map. GetInTheStands.com is 100% free to use and mobile friendly. So whether you're on a computer, a tablet, or on your phone, there's no need to download an app. To find racetracks across the United States, open your web browser and head to GetInTheStands.com. GetInTheStands.com, your racetrack directory.
Attention track and series owners, elevate your fan experience with the TrackTune app. TrackTune works with your PA system. Fans and teams at the track can hear the announcers through their phones, ensuring everyone hears race calls, sponsor plugs, and more during race nights. It's simple to set up, affordable, and free for fans to download and enjoy. Visit tracktune.live for all the details. And join tracks nationwide on the app
back.
today.
Our last lap segment kicks off now on the Tom Baker Show, and it is just the craziest thing to me to contemplate Indy cars running around Washington, D.C., but Jacob, that is exactly what's been announced here.
It has.
And I'm real curious, first of all, for the details on this and what your thoughts are.
So, details here. This is a race that IndyCar has added. It's an 18th race by presidential executive order. The presidential staff getting this done. It's going to be August 21st through the 23rd. This was something that IndyCar, I guess, Tom, kind of reading between the lines of what Roger Penske had said, had sought after maybe, but I wasn't expecting it to come to fruition in time for 2026. That was really what blew me away. It's going to be a course kind of on and around the National Mall with some of DC's finest landmarks in making up the backdrop of the course.
Yeah, I'm interested in this, and first of all, seen a lot of political rhetoric being injected into this. Don't really care. Not interested. I don't care what your politics are. Here are the 3 points to watch here. Number one, what kind of race course do we actually get?
Yep.
How wide is it? Number two, it's free admission. Yes, I said free admission, at least according to Donald Trump right now.
Yes.
So how many people are we going to get? And number three, is this something that continues, or is this going to be a one and done? But this is done, obviously, for our 250th birthday here in the United States of America. So interesting stuff out of IndyCar. We'll see.
Absolutely. I think that is the thing. We'll see as to, if and when it does all come together in late August. Spencer Baston, to go back to the Dirt Car Nationals, won the opener with Stenhouse Jr. Marshall Racing, his first race as a full-time driver for that team. Does it set expectations for him, Tom, in his revival season, first year back on a national tour in 3 years?
Well, I think, yeah, absolutely. It would have to. I'm not too worried about it, frankly. I think Spencer's going to do just fine. But yeah, when you start off the year like he did down in Florida, I think it does set some expectations that he's going to be a contender all year long.
For sure. In that same arena, we talked about the Anthony Macri being tied with Buddy Kofoid and David Gravel in the championship standings leaving Dirt Car Nationals. Buddy Kofoid versus David Gravel. I think we all kind of expect that to be the championship fight. We saw it in race 2 of the Outlaws Swing at Dirt Car Nationals. Buddy beat David heads up. David threw 3 haymakers at him, and Buddy did not blink. Do you think I'm right? Is this the championship fight, and who are you taking if it is?
I think they're 2 of the championship contenders. I'm not going to say that that's going to be the championship fight, lest we forget about that Shots guy we talked about in the beginning, and Baston, and Macedo, and Lord knows who else, honestly, because we're just getting started here, so it's a long year yet. But yeah, I think they're 2 of, for sure.
I think the thing to mention in all of that, 17 full-time World of Outlaws drivers this year, tied for the most since 2008, the last time there were 17 Outlaws going to every single race on the calendar. Driver you and I are familiar with from the Micro Sprint and Dirt Midget ranks, Jade Avedizian out of California, winning a super late model race during New Smyrna's World Series of Asphalt, actually the same night as Justin Bonsignor won the Mod Tour race. Just her second race ever in that division. Are you impressed? Because I was.
I'm extremely impressed, and I've been impressed with Jade for a long time. I think Jade is one of a few of the lady drivers up and coming who I believe has legitimately enough talent to make it big. I think she and Isabella Robusto are the 2 that I always look at. There are a couple of others as well, but Jade is the real deal. And honestly, if now I know she's in Donnie Wilson Motorsports Equipment. She's got a lot of money behind her, but so does everybody she's racing with. She still has to beat them. So yeah, I think Jade is a driver to watch, quite frankly, and I'm happy to see her get a win so early in the year.
I want to give a shout out to somebody from the Northeast set that you and I are very familiar with in Lightning Larry White out of Phoenix, New York, right near where you grew up in Oswego, not too far down the road. He not only won the entire showdown in the Sunshine State at Alltech Raceway in Florida. These were 3 track-sanctioned big block modified races, but the same style of big block modified rules as the Short Track Super Series and Super Dirt Car Series. He swept all 3 of them, and the middle race that he won, he did it from 24th last, dead last, to victory lane. I'll tell you what, I don't care who you are, what Larry did was really, really impressive and deserves to be talked about more than I've seen it on social.
Well, I don't think as many people are familiar with the big block modifieds. I think for our audience, we should add Northeast big block modifieds, the mud bus type modifieds, as people like to call them still, even though there's way more Bicknells built than mud buses at this point. But that Larry is definitely one of the best at that, and he just he rode a streak of lightning for a handful of races there, and and picked up the wins. And man, what happens when they go to Volusia? Time will tell.
That it will. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna. I want to leave my portion of this with a tease because I know we don't have time to dig into it. But I will say I'm saving this bullet for our next show. Dear Daniel Dye, you have confused all of us quite nicely, sir.
Well. Yeah, it's Daniel Dye made an announcement recently about an additional car he's going to be racing this year. Check out steeringwheelnation.com for all the details on that, because this is really kind of a crazy story. And that's where you go for all the exclusive content. Steeringwheelnation.com, and of course our new Inside Groove Pit Pass fan community. It is InsideGroovePitPass.com, and And for all of our social networks, it's at The Wheel Nation, at The Wheel Nation. And of course, you can catch me at the SWN Tom on Twitter. Jacob is at Jacob Seelman 77, and I'm also on LinkedIn and Facebook as well. So that is going to wrap it up for this edition of the Tom Baker Show. Thanks for joining us. Have a great week, everybody. So long.